fans. It's your host, Eddie B of the Eeez N Beez Podcast. Before we get to this week's podcast, let's shout out those sponsors who make this podcast happen each and every week. Make sure you guys go check them out on all the social media outlets out there. Give them all the support and all the love. Starting out with our main sponsor, Major Performance and Dyno, 1219 Snapsberry Road, Greenville, Tennessee. Check out my boy, Dustin Shelton, for all your no-prep bike needs. That's Major Performance and Dyno. Also, the baddest man on the light, the legend, the GOAT himself. That's right, check him out on all the social media outlets and hopefully at several races this year. Limpy. Shout out to our boy. Thoughts and prayers are with him. How about the baddest man behind the wheel? That's right, driver of Downgrade, driver of Optimus Primer. We love this crew and everything they do for us. Jasper Graham. And last but not least, added to the 2026 team. That's right, the baddest man behind the live feed. You can check him out live feeding all the races all year long in 2026. Go give him some support at 660 TV. Shout out to Dave Doan and 660 TV for coming on. We thank our sponsors who make this podcast happen. Now, let's get to those sports updates. You know the drill. Next. Good morning, all you wrestling and sports fans. This is the Eeez N Beez, the Bacon and Eggs of Pro Wrestling Sports Podcast, and I'm your host, Eddie Beez. Welcome back! Glad to have you here! We've got a Derby first, playoff burst, kind of breakfast for you today with NBA and NHL playoffs, NFL offseason, MLB leaders, the 152nd Kentucky Derby, NASCAR short track, open wheel, and no prep talk, UFC Perth Fight Night, and you guessed it, some wrestling. You're listening to the best breakfast wrestling sports focus on your brain. It's the Eeez N Beez Podcast.
We now return to the Kentucky Derby, where 90% of the audience roots for the horse with the cutest name.
And they're off. It's Battle Axe, followed by Redbeard, followed by Bishop, followed by Smiling Pink Bear. Oh my God, that's my horse. And on the outside, here comes Tiny Kitten Kisses. None of that one. And here comes It's Bedtime. Oh, I do not like him.
Hey, I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. 'Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
Friday! Thanks for joining us again here on this beautiful first Friday in the month of freedom. Friday, May 1st of 2026. We're in the mix. From racing horses to game sevens. We in the sporting heavens. You know the drill. Crack those eggs. Butter that toast. Cause it's time for the sunny side. Yes. Welcome back to the Eeez N Beez, and we are getting things kicked off here on this first Friday in one of my favorite months. That's right, the month of May. We're getting things kicked off. NFL offseason madness has continued. A lot of things happening in the last week or two since the draft. Obviously, that's what everybody's been talking about. But how about those unsigned players like quarterback from Vanderbilt, Diego? That's right, Diego Pava, the guy that claimed to be, the Heisman winner, the best quarterback in college football last season. Well, he went undrafted. That's right, on draft weekend. But the Baltimore Ravens, they stepped up to the plate and said, hey, we might need a backup for Miss Jackson, for this season coming up. So they put in Mr. Diego Pava, signing a one-year deal, getting him onto that practice squad there. We'll see what happens with that. Also, other big signings to talk about this week. He finally signed it. That's right, the Cowgirls. That's right, they were desperate for that wide receiver, George Pickens, to find out what the situation would end up being. Well, he signed, that's right, the franchise tag. So we know for at least one season he could be a Dallas Cowgirl. Or does that mean they're fixing to trade him? I know they've got the other wideout they want on the other side with CeeDee Lamb. We'll see what happens with Pickens. I know he was definitely a big force for Dak last season for them Cowgirls to kind of have a solid end of their season. We'll see if things stay the same or if George Pickens will be the next traded player going forward. Also, other big news out east. That's right, northeast that might be, as the Cleveland Dirty Browns. That's right, the Browns making the news headlines as voluntary camps have begun for them and returning back to the camp, back from obviously a injury, surgery, and all kinds of other speculations we won't even dig into. Deshaun Watson, that's right, starting quarterback, or should I say former starting quarterback for the Houston, Texas, and Cleveland Browns, returns back to voluntary camp. The real question is he going to step right back into his starting position for the Dirty Browns going into the 2026 season, or is it still Mr. Sanders as their starting QB1 there in Cleveland? They do got a deep QB room. We'll see how that turns out. Of course, keep an eye on the Watson story as it unfolds. And, of course, talking drama. Well, you know who's at the top of that list. It's the diva himself. That's right, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. That's right, Aaron Rodgers obviously getting slapped with the UFA tag, something maybe a lot of you do not know about or have never heard about. Well, this is a tag that protects those Steelers. Therefore, he cannot just walk away, and they won't get a concert pick, for next season. This obviously allows Aaron Rodgers to get a pay increase if he does sign with the Steelers. And of course, he has up until June to try to make that decision and maybe come back and play one more season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But a lot of people are still saying out there in Pittsburgh, make your mind up. They are tired. This is 2 years in a row. He's strung them along all the way to training camp and kind of, leaving the question in the air, is this the guy or is not the guy? They do got a couple backup quarterback situations still waiting in the helm to figure out as well. So a lot of a lot of speculation around that guy, as there always is. And, of course, a lot of stuff still brewing as NFL starting to gear up and get ready. We are just 1 month away now before the mandatory training camps kick off. And, of course, we'll keep you up to date with any of the news coming off the field leading into those camps, and of course everything right here on the best. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, pass the gravy, spread the butter, tell a friend, tell a family, tell someone about this podcast. Keep things going here on the sunny side up. Let's go from the gridiron to the hardwood, and it's time to talk some NBA playoff.
There's the final rebound. An inspiring victory for the Minnesota Timberwolves in a contest that will be forever known as the Io DeSumo game. Jokic and McDaniels square up. Players trying to break it up. There's still 1.3 remaining.
Jokic say anything to you, he said, what will No, I don't know what he said. Yeah, I just seen someone that was big as hell.
Why were you so upset with the McDaniels layup?
Because he scored and everybody stopped playing. Come on, guys, you saw it. What happened?
8%. Johnson running the floor. And somehow got that to go. And Edwards is hurt. Edwards holding on to his left leg. And he's looking over the bench, and Minnesota calls timeout. DiVincenzo. And they'll let it go out of bounds. The Nuggets during the regular season, they were one of the best road teams in the NBA. As DiVincenzo is on for somebody to come out. He's not getting up. They don't see it, and now they do.
Right here. And RJ Barrett tries to take it away from him, so they get just a little bit of a shove, really nothing there. What concerned me was the fact that pretty much the entire Cavalier bench came off. You see them in their warm-ups. In the old days.
Yes! Switching up to a little bit of NBA playoff talk, of course, at round one underway. We've seen some great heated rivalries get re-picked back up there on the hardwood. We've also seen some devastating injuries for some teams out there, as not only one player but two big players there for the T-Wolves go down in, of course, Game 4. Both simultaneously. Of course, they still got the win, which was ironic, and that's what stirred up the end layup between McDaniels and Joker that everyone has been talking about all week long. We also seen on the other side, though, the big sweep come out from your right defending NBA champion Oklahoma City Thunder as they put it to the Suns, and of course advancing the first team there to move to the second round. We also seen the San Antonio Spurs knocking out their opponent there in first round. So over on the West, those are the only two teams that kind of got out of the gate hot. There on Thursday, though, we had a potential 6 games of Game 6s to be happening. We had 3 there on Thursday. We will have 3 going down tonight as your number 1 seeded Detroit Bad Boy Pistons. They'll be heading down to Orlando to take on the Magic tonight for a Game 6. We also have the Cleveland Cavs. They'll head out to Toronto. That's right, up north to Canada, That's right, to play the Raptors and their Game 6. And then finishing out tonight, we'll have those Lakers. That's right, the Lakers right now holding on for desperation as they were up 3-0 on Houston. Now going into Game 6, 3-2 lead. Can they finish it up down there in Houston? Or will we be talking about 3 more Game 7s? Of course, last night's affairs got off to a great start. We know the Nuggets obviously is the talk around this town, but we are approaching round 2. Will we see both number 1 seeds advancing, or will the Pistons choke it up and give it all up to Orlando and be one of the first 1 seeds bounced in the first round in a long, long time? We'll have to keep an eye on that. But I know one thing that did happen this week. That's some new NBA rules. That's right. The rules have changed for the lottery. That's right. For the draft process announced this week. Here are the new rules going forward. You can no longer pick number 1 2 years in a row. So this stuff that Dallas pulled off will never happen again. We know that. We also know they're eyeing towards the tanking teams. That's coming to a stop because you're going to have to play in order to get picks how you want it. And if you play decent, you're still going to have a chance to be right there underneath that lottery line. But the other rules that were changed, how about this? You cannot have a top 5 pick 3 years in a row. So you can't suck 3 years in a row. You got to get it together in between that 3-year span. Now the question, what will happen if you don't? I don't know yet. I'll have to wait and see how that does turn out. But the lottery will no longer help the teams that are the worst in the league. It's a point situation. So you've got to be able to play all 82 games and be able to have a losing record. What they're trying to do is spice up these teams that are obviously sucking to get into the lottery and have a chance. And obviously, we are trying to avoid a trade situation where we fall into the Dallas Mavericks and, of course, LA Fakers situation that we had last season. So I think, in my opinion, It's a great move. It should have been done a long time ago, and this should tighten things up and make that NBA draft every year mean more than it does, kind of like the NFL draft where they have a whole weekend dedicated to it. Maybe NBA can kind of get to that level going forward with these new processes. Like I said, now we know going into the weekend, Oklahoma City and the Spurs waiting their opponents. We have a bunch of Game 6s going down live tonight, and who knows, we might have a handful of Game 7s to talk about next week. With that, folks, though, we'll keep you up to date, get you all set up for round 2. It's the NBA playoffs right here on the Best. With that, let's switch things up. Keep going here on the sunny side. Go from the hardwood to the pond and talk some Stanley Cup playoff.
For Kopitar and the Kings. 5-1 the final, and the Avalanche sweep the Kings in the first round.
Break for those Ottawa Senators as Brady Tkachuk and his Ottawa team are done. Their season has now come to an end. Carolina punching their ticket to the second round, JD. And this one had a little bit of everything. So much physicality, though, for sure. What did you make of the way this series went down so quick? Because Ottawa, despite getting swept, they played well.
Yeah, it's tough. Drops from long range. Score! The Flyers win it here in New York. The game she loves in overtime.
Yes! Switching up to a little bit of NHL Stanley Cup playoff talk. And, of course, just like the guys there on the hardwood, the boys on the pond, we've seen some back-and-forth action, overtime game, cheap shots, fights, and, of course, bad calls all going down in this first round there on the pond for the NHL 2026 playoffs. We've seen crazy fights, of course, there, when we also seen some teams just not putting up with it and sweeping the other and getting on to the second round, as right here in the state of Colorado, those that's right, the best team in hockey all season long with the biggest target on their back. Get it done there in round 1, 4 games to none. Of course, Kopar, a legendary hockey player there for the LA Kings, wrapping up his career, unfortunately going out in a sweep situation, but he did have a great career and obviously well respected across the whole entire NHL. So shout out to him on outstanding career, obviously, but it's all business right here in Colorado. They move on to the second round along with the Carolina, the Hurricanes. That's right, the Hurricanes sweeping Ottawa, even though Bradley Schutt was trying to get things hyped every game he stepped out there on the ice, as it seemed like he was always fighting. And, of course, that's where a few of the bad calls and cheap shots came from there in the first round of this series. So a lot of good stuff there on that. We also have seen, like I said, back and forth, Minnesota and Dallas battling it out, back and forth matchup between those guys. We've seen Jesus and the Edmonton Oilers and the Ducks going back and forth, just like over there on the hardwood. We have several situations where we have 3 Game 6s going down tonight and a possibility of a couple of Game 7s there on Saturday. Now, going down tonight, it's Tampa. They'll be heading to Montreal. That, of course, is a series where Tampa's got 2. Montreal leading it 3-2. Going there, Game 6 tonight. Also, a big televised series that's been all over ESPN and a lot of hype as the Buffalo Sabres. They'll be heading to Boston. That's right, the Bruins trying to hang on and win one more and force a Game 7 as that series as well, 3-2. And then wrapping it up tonight, it's Vegas. That's right, the Golden Knights. They've got 3 up against the Mammoth of Utah, who has 2 wins. Mammoth trying to make this series a very interesting one, as it has been already. Of course, 2 overtime games already in those 5 games between those 2 teams. So I cannot wait. 12 games left to win to be granted this year's 2026 Stanley Cup playoff, and of course have that Lord Stanley in your front office. That's how many games you got to get through. Like I said, we're going to be keeping up to date with everything on the pond. A lot of good action coming tonight. Will your favorite team advance and move into that second round, or will we be talking Game 7s like we love here on the Eeez N Beez. We'll keep you all up to date and get you all squared away with all the goals and everything right here next week on the Bush. Keep things going here on the sunny side up. Let's go from the pond to the diamond, slow things down, and talk some MLB baseball.
Bowers 2-2. Fastball taken on the outside corner, strike 3 called. It's a no-hitter for Trevor Bauer, the third no-hitter in Long Island Ducks history, and the 10-year Major League veteran gets it done here in Lancaster as Long Island wins it 13-0 over the Stormers.
Ag.
High fly ball, first pitch, deep left. Church at the wall. He's got it again. Up against the wall. Church and the Cardinals hang on and beat the Pirates. Drill deep to left field. McCutchen back. Track. Wall. See ya. Into the second deck. A long home run for Judge.
Yes. Line driving right into a little bit of MLB baseball. Talk, of course, baseball in the early parts of their long, exhausting season. But as it's already about 30 games into, we are already seeing not one, but two head coaches or managers being fired there from two respectful teams as Philadelphia and, of course, Boston firing their coaches already in this young season. Off to some awful starts those two teams are, and, of course, looking to change some things around. So they got rid of the man in charge right out the gate. Also, over there in New York, those Mets. That's right, the Dirty Mets. They've been struggling, finally trying to find some wins as they went on a 12-game losing streak, got that knocked off, got a win or two under the belt, and then right back to losing ways. But as we know, it's a long, exhausting season. We still got over 130 games to go before we get into the MLB postseason there in October. But we know this, there's a lot of teams already off to and players to hot starts. Of course, we'll get to that here in just a second, but let's get to how those standings set going into this weekend out there in the American League East. It's those New York Yankees. Yankees right now 20-11, leading their division. They're being followed by the Rays of Tampa right now at 18-12, and then Baltimore. That's right, the Orioles right there at 14-15. Out in the Central, it's those Indians of Cleveland. They're at 16-16. They're being chased by the Detroit Tigers. That's right, the Tigers right now 15-16, one game under 500. And don't look now, but I don't ever say this team right there in third. It's the Chicago White Sox. I'll repeat myself. In third right now in the Central AL is the Chicago White Sox. Yeah, they're 14-17. Congratulations to them. Finally turning some things around. Out in the West, though, wrapping it up, it's still those Violets A's. That's right, the Oakland A's 16-14. They're being chased by the Seattle Mariners, who are 16-16. And then Texas, that's right, the Rangers, one game under at 15-16. Out in the National League East, it's the MLB league leading, Atlanta Braves. That's right, they're 22-9, best in baseball. They're being chased by the Miami Marlins. They're 15-16, and Washington's 14-17. Out in the Central, the best division in baseball. I'll say that for the next couple weeks. It's Cincinnati. That's right, the Redlegs. They're at 19-11. The Chicago Cubs, they're right there at 19-12. The St. Louis Coyotes, they're right there at 17-13. Milwaukee's at 15-14, and Pittsburgh is, of course, 16-15. So that division still staying tight as can be. And then wrapping it up out here in the NL West, it's those L.A. payment Dodgers. That's right, the Dodgers right now 20-11. The Padres, they're right there behind them at 19-11. And then Arizona right there at 16-13. So a lot of good baseball yet to be played, but still a lot of good baseball being played as we speak. So definitely go check out some of that. Going into the weekend, here are your stat leaders over on the batting average side of things. It's going to be a new one. How about this? Arizona's Vargas. That's right. Ian Vargas slugging a solid 372 going into the weekend. Then over on the home run, we have a tie as alright. That's right. Aaron Judge leading there with 12, but he's also got some company. How about Mr. Milwaukee? That's right. He's right there from the White Sox with 12 as well. Over on the RBIs, we've got Stewart there from Cincinnati. He's got 29. On the hits, we've got a three-way tie between Bellotti, that's right, Guerrero Jr., Alvarez, and Baldwin. They've all got 39. Stolen bases, Nunez there from Washington. He's leading the league with 13. Over on the pitching side of things, how about wins? Well, we've got a log jam at the top. That's right. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pitchers tied with 5 wins. That's Williams, Serrano, Rupp, Sale, and Ashby all tied with 5. ERA, though, is led by Serrano. He's got a solid .84 going into the weekend. Saves still led by Mr. Miller himself. That's right, Mason Miller with 10. And then strikeouts, Cleveland's Williams with 53. 130 games to go, folks. A long way, but we'll be keeping you up to date with all those stats, leaders, and everything come off the diamond right here on the best. Keep things going here on the sunny side up. It's time to pick the pace up, switch the gears, and talk some racing.
Yeah, Cletus is doing a nice job hanging in there with a side draft. A nice push from the 24 of Daniel Dye actually pushes him out front of the 18. Cletus McFarland in front here at Talladega in the 30. We're just riding here now. You're leading at Talladega, brother. Oh, wait.
Long ways to the start-finish line still.
Hocevar edging up on the bottom. They're 3 wide. Crease, contact, 4 cars into the wall. Leaders coming to the line. Number 13, first-time winner, Carson Hocevar.
Yes. Switching gears here, sliding into a little bit of NASCAR racing. Talking, of course, last weekend, coming off a big weekend out there in Talladega. That's right, Dega, baby, was a big, successful weekend for some. Some, of course, as always, got caught up in that big one, but we saw things get kicked off there on Saturday as YouTube sensation Cletus McFarland, or Garrett Mitchell, however you may call him, got strapped up there in the 30, Mr. Sam's spray wax car, and took that thing to the front. Led some laps there at Dega, but when it came down to the final lap, he had every chance if he would have just kept his line and let Andy J push him to the finish line. Instead, he went to the bottom, hoping to knock off the momentum of the bottom line and therefore finishing second. What a run it was, but we do want to shout out Andy J getting the big Talladega ARCA win. Of course, his first ever ARCA win, first time ever winning at Talladega. He said he's dreamed this millions of times, but just woke up in the end. Well, this time it was not the dream. It was the real thing. So shout out to him and all the other teams out there. Congratulations on an outstanding run. We then turn the page over to Sunday. That's right, last weekend. The big race there at Talladega as we saw the big boys in the Cup Series strap them in and hit the track. In the end, though, it was, like the announcer said, the 13th time. First-time winner in NASCAR Cup Series, getting the big job done, just like his idol, his favorites in the 3, in the 88 machine. It was the 77 car of Carson, the Hurricane Hocevar. Congratulations to Carson and, of course, Team Spire getting the big job done there on Sunday and riding that Dante to the finish line, getting the big win, and, of course, celebrating one hell of a job. An outstanding celebration that no one saw coming. This man pulls it over down on the flats, pulls off the steering wheel, adjusts himself on the window ledge, puts the wheel back on, and then continues to ride backwards Alan Kulwicki style. Well, I would say not Alan Kulwicki style, but towards the fans, waving at the fans while sitting on the ledge. An outstanding display of a celebration. And then in the end, he kind of scared us all, but he nosed her up into the wall pretty hard, knocked himself good, but burned him down and celebrated. Congratulations to Carson. It's been obviously coming for a long time. This man obviously been noted as one of the most hated co-drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series in the last couple seasons, but it seems his maturity has started to shine, and of course his speed has shown up all season long this year as he's been pretty much in that top 10. It seems like week in, week out. Now, this weekend, they'll turn the page, though, head down south to Texas. That's right, Texas International Speedway is where the big NASCAR Cup Series will be heading this weekend. We'll keep you up to date and get you caught back up next week with how that top 10 and the points set. But from that, let's switch it up and head to IndyCar. That's right, the IndyCar Series returning back to practice because it's the month of May. That's right, the month of May means one thing when it comes to IndyCar. It's the Indianapolis 500, and of course the month of May, all racing season long there in Indiana. As we'll see, the IndyCars on track, but they'll be getting things kicked off next week as they'll return back to racing form on the road course there in Indy. So, of course, next week will be the first week in the month of May. And, of course, it's an exciting time if you're an Indiana relative or, of course, native, as that's one of the funnest races to go to and attend each and every year. And, of course, it's been getting exciting. And there will not be any crossover this year from the Kyle Larson or the NASCAR side of things. But hopefully in the future, we'll see that happen once again. We know going into this next weekend, we'll see if Alex Palou, the reigning, defending IndyCar Cup champion, can keep on his winning ways, of course, winning 3 races already in this early part of the season, or will your points leader, Kyle Kirkwood, get back up front and, of course, get another big win there on the road course in Indianapolis? We'll keep you up to date with that. Now for the other side of the open wheels racing, how about Whoa, that's right, F1 been off for the whole entire month of April, obviously getting things set for the big push into summer, and of course getting ready for what they would consider the middle portion of their season, and of course they get back on track in the great country of the United States of America. That's right, as this weekend it is the Crypto.com Miami Grand Prix. That's what will be happening there for the F1. We'll see if anybody can get to the top and knock off old AK from the top spot on that podium. Will we see some familiar names and faces like Norris or Mr. Max back on top of that podium? You know, down there in Florida, it's a big deal. We'll keep you up to date with that race and, of course, those winners right here next week on The Best. Now, going from that, how about there in Indianapolis this weekend? It's the Indy 800. That's right, talking Cletus McFarland and friends returning back to IRP, as tonight it'll be the Indy 800 there for the Crown Vic race. And then tomorrow, I do believe it is the burnout session and maybe drag race portion of Cletus and friends going down. So make sure you guys, if you're in Indiana, go check that out. That should be a great race. A lot of celebrities racing in that course Crown Vic race. But if you don't want to see that style, you want to see even crazier style, how about tomorrow night? It's the return back to Indianapolis Speedrome for the Outlaw Figure Eights. That's right, and it is a 100 lapper. That's right, 100 laps through the crossover, which means twice as many times of all the exciting action could happen there in the crossover. We'll see, of course, can Jeffrey Shackelford keep back to his winning ways, winning the first 2 races, and then, of course, last race ran, we've seen a new name in the winner's circle as Mr. Brooks got the win there in the feature. Who will come out on top? The 100 lapper going down this weekend, Indianapolis Speedrome. Make sure you guys check out the Outlaw Figure Eight. Shout out to, of course, all the Eeez N Beez veterans like the Tonys and all them going into this weekend. Good luck. Make sure you guys go check that out. But how about this? How about where we'll be at this weekend? That's right, as it's opening night. That's right, going down live Colorado National Speedway. That's right, going down here as we'll see Colorado National Speedway's opening night getting kicked off there. Tonight, they'll be doing the chip draw for the super late models, and of course, getting that all set up and squared away. But tomorrow, it is opening night for CNS, and we are super excited here as we're going to make the trip down and root on Eeez N Beez veteran and, of course, a baddest chick in, of course, the CNS racing facility as the OH6. And, of course, Eeez N Beez veteran Uptown Speed Shop. late mile. We'll be heading there to the track. McChrystal Hilton getting back in the racing scene, and this time back in a new series and with one of the best cars on track. So we'll be heading up there to support her. Of course, we'll also be cheering on, rooting on other Eeez N Beez veterans like Team Beta. Yep, Emilio and Jordan getting back on track as the Pure Stocks will be in action as well. So opening night, Colorado National Speedway. If you see me out there, come say hello. Maybe I'll have a sticker or something to hand you. And it's going to be a packed house for a great night to get things kicked off for the 2026 season. And of course, don't forget, coming up later this year, we'll keep you all up to date, guiding you all the way through the summer into the return of the best High Bank short track racetrack in Colorado as High Bank Speedway at Beacon Hill. Will be returning back to racing form, hopefully by the end of this summer. Make sure you guys go check out highbankspeedway.com's webpage to keep up to date with all the news. Check out Steve Lacey and everything that they got going on. Shout out to him, Adam, and everyone putting in all the extra effort to get that track back to, of course, racing form, and all the people back in that place very, very soon. We cannot wait. So hopefully that's right around the corner as well. So also a lot of other short tracks opening up across the nation. We know that already some underway. Shout out to all of last weekend's winners. But with that, enough lefts, rights, and through the middles. Let's head to the street. That's right. No prep talk here on the Eeez N Beez, as we do each and every week, getting you caught up on the best no prep talk here in the nation. And of course, last weekend, let's shout out some winners, as for the first time ever in NHRA history, we've seen small tires accommodate their show and getting the win. No surprise here. Street Outlaw legend Ryan Martin. Shout out to Ryan Martin getting the job done there last weekend. Not a very big car count, but when he's there, he means business, and he's usually in the finals in whatever he competes in. Shout out to Ryan getting that first ever obviously Wally small tire trophy at an NHRA event. We also seen up above the border, that's right, there in Canada, their first action of the year. Shout out to, of course, TC Toon, getting some good laps in there, and hopefully back to a speedy, healthy recovery when he can. But we know getting the win, another Eeez N Beez veteran. How about Sinister Performance? That's right, Sinister Performance. Mike Corley getting the job done there last weekend. Shout out to him there in Shop Truck. And of course, Maxwell on the tunes, getting the big win there. First race back above the border, and of course their first race of the season in Canada. So congratulations to him on an outstanding job. Shout out to all the winners there last weekend in the no prep events. And of course, like our boy Limpy always says, the streets are always open. So shout out to everyone there last weekend. This weekend though, we got a action-packed full weekend of no prep going down. Shout out to my boy once again Limpy, as West X Abilene of War 2 will be going down, so you guys can go check out the Art of War down there in West X Abilene in Texas. Also, my other boy, how about Jeff Thomas and of course Landon Helm? They are owners of Lake Cumberland Dragway, and it's bash for the cash. Of course, going down tonight, and then tomorrow night will be the tournament style there on Saturday. Tonight will be, of course, standard no prep flashlight rules. So make sure you guys go check out Jeff's and Landon's, all their pages for what's going down there at Lake Cumberland. Hope they have a great turnout, as that, what Jeff says, is a great place to get a test and tune ready for what's coming up at the end of this month. And we'll be talking about that here in just a second. The baddest race on the planet. But anyways, going down, we also have D-Team throwing a race there at Kunal. We know that was obviously Chris Lane's old race, but shout out to D-Team continuing that tradition. Kunal is going to be having their action going down this weekend. And of course, we also know there's Swan Fest and Street Car Takeover as well on the prep side. So shout out to all the racing going down this weekend. Of course, next weekend, we'll keep you up to date with who took home the money and the trophies. But as we said, it is just like the Indianapolis 500 in the month of May. For us here at the Eeez N Beez Podcast, month of May means one thing. Besides my wife's birthday and the kids getting out of school, it means war. in the Woods. That's right, War in the Woods coming up here in 3.5 weeks. It's time for us to get prepped and ready for the biggest, baddest no prep race of the spring each and every year. That's right, as Jeff Thomas and crew putting on War in the Woods, going down there in Brown County, Indiana. And as we always do, we'll be there tossing out freebies, helping out whenever we can, and of course, hanging out with all the fans and friends. It's going to be an exciting time. And to get things kicked off coming up next week, that's right, we're going to kick it off and kick the door down with two very special guests. That's right, I've been waiting to have these guys on the podcast. Been knowing them for about 4 years. We can't wait to hear their story and hear what they've got to say about this War in the Woods coming up here in the spring. It's coming to us from Michigan. It's going to be the tag team racing duo. That's right, Erica and Matt Munson will be joining us next week. Shout out to Erica and Matt Munson for obviously being the kickoff of War in the Woods month here at the Eeez N Beez on our guest list. And of course, we'll have 2 more guests the next 2 following weeks after we have Erica and Matt. So make sure you guys are staying tuned. Hit those notifications. Make sure you keep up to date. It is the best breakfast wrestling and sports podcast on your Fridays. With that, folks, that's all we got on the sunny side. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to keep the racing spirit alive. We're going to line them up in the gate, and we're going to talk the 152nd Kentucky Derby next in the meet. You're listening to the Eeez N Beez Podcast.
The leader at the top of the stretch. Journalism is on the move as they turn for home, and Sovereignty is coming with him on the outside. The 2 of them go right by with a furlong to run. Journalism and Sovereignty, nose to nose, down to the last 16th of a mile. Sovereignty has taken the lead. Journalism is second toward the inside. Eeez is third, but it will be Sovereignty to rule the Kentucky Derby. They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to the meet. That's right. This week on the meet, we are diving into the 152nd Kentucky Derby. That's right, the 152nd Kentucky Derby being held tomorrow there, going down live in Louisville. And what a tradition, of course, this is each and every year here on the Eeez N Beez. We break down the Kentucky Derby, get you set up, and of course give you our picks and underdogs for the big race going down there on Saturday. Now, as we know, coming off of the 151st Kentucky Derby last year, Sovereignty dominant there at the end, got the win over Journalism, and of course on a very, very sloppy wet track there last year in the 151st. Now this year we turn the page and turn the weather to another kind of situation where this time we're looking at clear skies of 60 to 62 degrees going into tomorrow around race time, which should be just like in the motorsporting world. Fast means cold, cold means fast, and it's going to be a fast track there tomorrow, I predict, for the 152nd Kentucky Derby. As this year, we're going to have several horses entered more than we did last year. Of course, we know with the weather conditions, that kind of scratched some, and we still may see some scratch from the time I speak and then the time we hit to the gates there tomorrow afternoon at the 152nd Kentucky Derby. Now, this year, there was 21 horses entered, 1 horse already at out the gate and decided not going to be able to contend there tomorrow. But we now have 20 very strong horses. Now, the odds set have been moving and shuffling for a long time. The odds I have taken are obviously a day or 24 hours old, so they may have slotted or changed since the last I have written in my notes before I made this podcast official. So, as I read these next 20 horses, how I will read these next 20 horses is off of their gates. That's right. It's not off of the best to worst. Even though it kind of might seem that way, it actually is going off of gate selection and how these horses will come out of the gate there tomorrow afternoon live on your TV screen. So starting out in gate 1, it is, of course, the fan favorite and most predicted to win this race, Renegade. Renegade is a 5-1 odd on that gate 1. There in gate 2, we'll have Albus. He's 47-1 in gate 2. Gate 3 is Interpedo. He is 55-1, a very high odd horse there in gate 3. Gate 4 will bring a familiar face to a lot of horse racing fans as Bob Baffert horse in Litmus Test. He is a 41-1 odds there in gate 4. Gate 5 is the Right to Party. That's right. Beastie Boys Right to Party, 31-1 coming out of gate 5. Gate 6, it's Commandant. All right, he's got an 8-1, and I think Commandment is one of the underdog, higher seeded horses coming out of gate 6, and we'll talk about that here in just a few seconds. Gate 7, it's Dan and Bourbon. He's 13-1 coming out of that gate. Gate 8, so happy. That's right, be happy, so happy, as he's a 6-1 odds coming out of gate 8, so a very, very high chance that he's going to be there at the end. Gate 9 is the Puma. The Puma, he's 5-1, and he's just like the Renegade, the other fan favorite and most picked horse to come out on top there tomorrow afternoon. Gate 10's Wonder Dean. He's 19-1. Gate 11 is Interbolt. Interbolt is a 37-1 horse. Gate 12 is Chef Wallaby. Chef Wallaby, a 14-1. Not too bad. That's gate 12. Gate 14, because we're skipping gate 13 where the scratch is. Gate 14, another familiar face as Bob Baffert. That's right, Bob Baffert horse in Puntney. He's coming out of 28-1 odds there. Probably not going to have much of a chance out of the two horses that Bob has entered into this year's Kentucky Derby. The 15th gate is Emerging Market at 13-1. 16th gate is Pavilion. He's 50-1. 17th gate is a 6-speed. He's 46-1. Hopefully he can kick it into the 7th speed. 18th gate is Further Ado. That's right, Further Ado, another favorite horse as he's a 7-1. And then again, of course, gate 19 is Golden Tempo. He's 50-1. Gate 20 is Fulford. He's 19-1. And then wrapping it up, the farthest horse on the outside, gate 21, and the highest odded horse in the field as Great White, 96-1. That's your odds, that's your gates, and that is your horses going down live tomorrow afternoon there in Louisville, as it'll be the 152nd Kentucky Derby. And, of course, we'll be keeping up to date, getting our bets in, and trying to come out on top. So, for a little inside, our underdog pick tomorrow, a horse that has a high odded chance, but you never know because you don't know until it's over or the fat lady sings. We're going with, coming out of the 4th gate, Bob Baffert owned Litmus Test as our underdog horse, or should I say our underdog coming out of gate 4 at a 41-1 odds. That should be a lot of money if that was to hit. And then our main pick of the 2026 151st Kentucky Derby is going to be coming out of gate 18. Further Ado. That's right, Further Ado at 7-1. I do like Commandment at 8-1. So those two horses, obviously a coin flip for me, but I think Further Ado coming out there of the 18th gate away from a few of those faster horses could put him out front quickly and maybe manage that first portion of this race. It's going to be exciting times. Like I said, a fast track expected. Cool, but not too cool temperatures tomorrow afternoon, live for the 152nd Kentucky Derby. And we're going to have all your winners and picks right here next week on the best. With that, folks, that's all we got this week on the meet. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to climb those ropes. We're going to drop those bows. And we're going to get to one of my favorite parts of the show. And we're going to talk some wrestling. Next, you're listening to the Eeez N Beez Podcast. Make sure you're checking out our sponsors who make this podcast happen, like Major Performance and Dyno, 1219 Snapsbury Road, Greenville, Tennessee. That's Major Performance and Dyno. Check out Dustin, Shelton, and all of what Major Performance Dyno does. They're on all of the social media outlets. Also, the baddest man on the light, the GOAT, the legend himself, Limpy. Shout out to Limpy. You can check him out this weekend down West X Abilene or at a race near you. Follow him on all of the social media outlets. Our thoughts and prayers are always with our boy, Limpy. Also, the baddest man behind the wheel, driver of Downgrade, driver of Optimus Primer. It's Jasper Graham. Shout out to Jasper Graham and his crew and everything they do for us here at the Eeez N Beez Podcast. And, hey, you need that race to watch this weekend, but you can't go to it? We got your answer. How about the best traveling live feed in the no prep game? That's right. It's 660 TV. Check out Dave Doan and 660 TV for all the baddest live no prep live feeds this season. We thank our sponsors who make this podcast happen.
I know exactly what I wanted when I came out here last Monday. I didn't stutter. I didn't hesitate. When I told you that I didn't want that title, but I need that title. What? What, you must be stuck in your WWE main event bubble, huh? What, you must be stuck in tribal chief land, huh? You ain't grind like me, Roman. See, I'm on cut with it. I'm on raw with it, huh? 12 years. A hard work, 12 years of grinding, 12 years of suffering, not knowing what the next meal was gonna be, huh? So when y'all was up here running the bloodline, I was broke, foaming out the mouth, grinding on the front line, trying to figure out if I was gonna be here or not. You've won everything there is to win here. You are a first ballot WWE Hall of Famer, there's no question. You are the very best professional wrestler in the entire world. At being number 2. You know, that was pretty good, baby Steiner. You come up with that one on your own, or did you call Big Papa Pump for your hookup?
Woo! As we slide into the ring there, WWE coming off, of course, their WrestleMania fallout, still getting back to regular TV and getting back in the swing of things. We've seen a lot of the fallout from, of course, WrestleMania bouncing onto the Raw and SmackDown episodes in the last week. And, of course, we saw there Raw on Monday. Jacob Fatu putting it to Roman Reigns there and telling him he wants everything. And, of course, Roman, after falling to his knees from the Tonga choke, not once but twice, gets back on the mic and lets Jacob Fatu know that he will accept his challenge for the next event coming up there for WWE, which will be Backlash. That's right, Backlash coming to him live as their next premium live event, and we already know Cody and the CM Chump starting to build their little storyline heading into maybe that next event. We also saw there that the biggest story may be coming out of Monday night. How about Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins going face-to-face and promo Knoxville, throwing some big shots and big cuts at each other, talking a lot of smack. That obviously has been signed, sealed, delivered, and ready for Backlash. So we'll see if Seth Rollins becomes back to the face side of things there at WWE. It's going to be very interesting. But a lot of the other talk outside of the ring at WWE has been the other fallout from WrestleMania, as the TKO have stepped in and made their releases, at least a pretty large supplement of releases. Wrestlers being released there after WrestleMania include people from the Wyatt Six. That whole thing is gone. We also seen Aleister Black and Selena Vega gone. How about a wrestler that has not come back to the ring from surgery yet? Yeah, Zoe Stark gone. We've seen a lot of people crying and very upset about Kairi Sane gone. A lot of names being let go there at WWE. The real question will be, where do they go from there? How about we switch it up and go to the other channel?
Make his hand right now. What the hell? What? Descending from the top of the arena is Darby Allin, EW World Champion. Next turn around. Oh no. Darby! He's got MJF hooked right now! My rematch, Darby!
Woo! Over there at AEW, as they are, of course, coming off of their big last pay-per-view as Dynasty there in Canada, followed up by the big Dynamite on the following Wednesday, where Darby Allin took the belt right off of MJF. The feud still here continues. MJF there on Wednesday night went for the TNT Championship, and just when he thought he had it right in his hands, Darby Allin, like the old Sting, descended from the ceiling, come down and helped out Mr. Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight retained the belt. We also seen FTR announcing there this past weekend, that their match coming up at Double or Nothing, which will be AEW's next pay-per-view event coming up in 3 weeks. FTR rematch going up against Cope and Cage, and it will be, of course, a street fight along with a I Quit match. So that, of course, spicing up. They tried to interfere on their matchup there on Wednesday night. Roppongi Vice is who they were taking on. We did see the Clamanger, Orange Cassidy and his group help out on that situation, but they continue their build as well, heading towards their next big pay-per-view event, Double or Nothing, coming to us from Queens, New York. Of course, a new location in that sense, as it's always been in Vegas, this year in New York. And like we were talking just a minute ago, the real question will be, what WWE released wrestlers will we see in 90 days show up on AEW TV? We're really hoping that Zoe Stark gets a fair shot. WWE doesn't bring her back. Hopefully she'll return will show up at AEW and get a valid chance at redeeming herself after a very traumatic injury and recovery. So a lot of things twirling there. Make sure you guys, as we always say, go support those local indie wrestling promotions. We support Rocky Mountain Pro here at the Eeez N Beez. Without those local indie wrestling promotions, these big names would never show up on your TV screen, or maybe even at Power Slap or what it may be. So make sure you guys go help them guys out. That gets these guys to where they need to be. With that, though, let's go from the squared circle to the octagon.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. All the judges score the contest 49-45 for the winner by unanimous decision, Aljamain.
Yes, UFC Fight Night there last weekend in the Las Vegas Apex Center, as returning back to winning ways, it was Aljo Funkmaster Sterling getting the big win over Vidal there. Just dominant fashion, pretty much took him to the ground and showed him he was a dominant wrestler and, of course, MMA fighter for a reason. Shout out to, of course, his camp on an outstanding job. We'll see what sets up in his next big fight for him. But we know this weekend, yet back to the octagon we go, as it's yet another UFC Fight Night, this time down under. That's right, as UFC Fight Night in Perth is where it's at, and it is a stacked card. That's right, we might see Tao Tuasava getting a shoey as he'll kick off the main card there on Saturday night for UFC Perth Fight Night going down. But we also have in the flyweight division, the 11th ranked UFC veteran. I swear this dude will never die. He'll go probably fight till he's 80. Tim Elliott. He'll be taking on the 12th ranked Steve Urquhart. Now that should be a hell of a matchup. Probably will be more on the mat than anything, but that should be a good one to keep your eye on. Also in the co-main event, lightweight division, as the 12th ranked Bennett Darvish. That's right. Benoit Darvish will be taking on Quillian, the civilian. That's right, my man, trying to make a name for himself down under in his home country up against Darvish. That should be a banger of a matchup in the lightweight division. And wrapping things up in the main event of the evening, it will be in the welterweight division as the number 1 ranked Jack Della Milavinenda. That's right, JDM. He'll be going up against the 5th ranked Carlos Parat. That's right, Carlos Paredes going up against JDM. This will be a bad to the bone 5-round must-see main event going down live tomorrow night. UFC Fight Night Perth down under. Another shrimp on the bob. You already know we'll be keeping you up and, of course, getting you all set up. Coming up as next week, we turn back to UFC 328 as on the main card. 2 big championship bouts. It will be the champion Chimov going up against UFC fan favorite and big mouth Sean Strickland. Also in the co-main, we'll have another title on the line as Van will put his belt up against Taira. These should be a banger of a card coming up next week. We'll have our picks and everything right here on the best. With that, folks, that's going to wrap this whole thing up. Stay tuned. We're going to close it out in the toast. You're listening to the Eeez N Beez Podcast. All gas, no brakes. You know what I mean? It's everybody's favorite part of the show. Get out your jams, your jelly, your cinnamon, your butter, your sugar. It's time to spread it. It's the toast, as we always do each and every week here on the toast, giving you those weekly personal shout-outs, letting you know what we got coming up next, and of course, where you can find us at. As we always do, though, before we get to those shout-outs, let's start out with those sponsors. That's right, the sponsors who make this podcast happen. Shout out to Major Performance and Dyno. Check them out at 1219 Snapsberry Road, Greenville, Tennessee, for all your no-prep bike needs. That's Major Performance and Dyno. Shout out to Dustin, Abby, and Major. Thanks for everything they do. How about the baddest man on the light, the GOAT, the legend himself. That's right, the GM of West X Abilene. You can check him out live every Tuesday on the table or at a race near you. It's Limpy. Shout out to my brother Limpy. Thoughts and prayers always with him. Make sure you guys go give him some love and support. How about the next one up? Baddest man behind the wheel, driver of Downgrade, driver of Optimus Primer. It's Jasper Graham. Shout out to Jasper Graham and his crew and everything they do. You can go check it out coming up at the end of this month at Whoa in the Woods. Thanks, Jasper, for being a sponsor here at the podcast. And last but not least, you can't get to that race. You need someone somewhere to watch it, someone to follow. How about the baddest traveling live feed in the no prep world? It's 660 TV. Check out Dave Doan and 660 TV for all the baddest no prep live feeds in 2026. We thank our sponsors who make this podcast happen. All right, folks, let's get to those shout-outs, starting out with Happy and Kinsey at Support Your Local Street Agent. Also, shout-out to Jeff and Julie. Can't wait to see you guys coming up in the month. Shout-out to Fueled by Vase, Josh Robinson. Shout-out to Moonshine's Garage. Shout-out to Ryan at Tailgate Throwdown. Shout-out to Chuck at On Tilt Racing. Shout-out to Nitric Express, Jimmy Dale and Pullen and Brent. Shout-out to Team Meatball. Shout-out to Centers Performance, Mike Corley. Shout-out to High Bank Speedway, Steve Lacey, and, of course, Adam Hilton. Shout-out to Team Hilton and Abeta. Good luck this weekend. Can't wait to hang out with you guys there tomorrow night. Shout-out to the Tunnies. Shout-out to Hollywood, Haley J. Shout-out to Rocky Mountain Pros, Yaden, Dustin, Lilith, Remy. My boys, Big Stank, Floyd, Neil, Brian, Tony, and, my peeps at The Green Solution. Check us out, Green Solution, 810 North College Road, for all of your cannabis needs. All right, like I said, folks, very big weekend here in Colorado. Opening night going down tomorrow night, Colorado National Speedway. We will be in the building. We won't be doing no filming or nothing. We're just going to be celebrating, rooting on, and if we need to give a helping hand to that baddest chick in the late model division, we'll be there to do it. We'll also be there to shake hands, kiss babies, and hand out some free stuff. So if you see me, don't be scared to approach me. I might have a sticker or shirt or something to hand out with me available. So shout out to everyone there. Also, like I said earlier in this podcast, coming up next week, we are getting in the Woods kicked off here for the Eeez N Beez Podcast, our favorite month of the year. We do like September's race as well, but this one is always the best one in my opinion. And of course, we're getting it kicked off with some brand new first-time guests coming at us. That's right, tag team racing duo. That's right, one of my favorite people to hang out with at War in the Woods. It's the Munsons, and Eric and Matt Munson will be, and maybe even Yogi, live with us next Friday. Make sure you guys mark it down. Check it out. Support us on our YouTube, and also go follow the Munsons on all of their social media outlets. We're so excited to have them finally here at the Eeez N Beez. Also, finally here at the Eeez N Beez, new merch is in. That's right, Breakfast in the Woods 3. That's right, Earnhardt, throw it up for the 3. Breakfast in the Woods 3 shirts are made, ready to be sold, and they are going to be limited at War in the Woods. I'm not flying with 100,000 shirts. I'm only coming with enough to make it worth my while, and you better make sure you get in there and get in there quick from Thursday to Saturday, because after that, you will only be able to get them online in order to, select to order fashion. So make sure you guys check out our Eeez N Beez, my Shopify.com page to keep up to date with all of the baddest podcast merch in the game. But we will have not one, but 2 new items there at War in the Woods in the merch available. So make sure you guys come check out my pops, Uncle B, or myself, and get you a limited Breakfast in the Woods 3 Earnhardt shirt going down. No, it has nothing to do with Dale Earnhardt. I was thinking about it, but I didn't do it. So don't worry about that. It's also something that I made myself with a little bit of assistance. It's not all AI, I promise you. All right, folks. If you want to be on the show, very simple. Get us at Eeez N Beez Podcast at gmail.com. Give us your story. We'll get back to you and get you on air. That's Eeez N Beez Podcast at gmail.com. Or if you want to be a part of this team, support this team, or sponsor, very simple, same thing. Eeez N Beez Podcast at gmail.com. We'll get you attached to this podcast, your sponsor or your business said 3 times a week. And of course, any logo attached to our merch for the 2026 season. All right, folks, you know what time it is. It's time for today's Sports Illustrated Fact of the Day. All right. In his 200th game, Julio Rodriguez recorded his 40th career stolen base, becoming the second fastest player since 1900 to reach 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases as of the 2023 season. Fernando Tatis Jr. achieved that milestone in 185 games. And that is today's Sports Illustrated Fact of the Day. All right, folks, you know what time it is. We will always do this each and every week. We want to thank and your city. Top 10 cities downloaded goes like this. Want to give a shout out to number 10 on the list. It's probably coming from our guest 2 weeks ago. It's Wheatland. Wyoming. Shout out to Wheatland, Wyoming. Number 9 on the list, it's the D. It's Detroit, Michigan. Shout out to Detroit, Michigan. Number 8 on the list, it's Old Faithful. It's Ashburn, Virginia. Shout out to Ashburn, Virginia. Number 7, it's another Old Faithful. It's Springfield, Massachusetts. Shout out to Springfield, Massachusetts. Number 6 on the list, it's out west. It's Sacramento, California. Shout out to Sacramento, California. Number 5, it's the Big D, and I mean it. It's Dallas, Texas. Shout out to Dallas, Texas. Number 4, it's the state where I'm from. It's Indianapolis, Indiana. Shout out to Indianapolis, Indiana. You already know the rest. Number 3, it's the city where we stay. It's Fort Collins, Colorado. Shout out to all my friends and family here in Fort Collins. Number 2, it's Old Faithful overseas. It's Frankfurt, Germany. Shout out to Frankfurt, Germany. And back on top, that's right, it's the capital where we stand. It's Denver, Colorado. Shout out to Denver, Colorado. Thank you so much for all the love. Make sure you guys mark it down on your calendar. Coming up next week, it's first-time guest, the baddest tag team racing no-prep duo, Erica and Matt Moulton. Plus, check me out tomorrow night, Colorado National Speedway. It's the month of freedom. It's the best month besides August and the month of the whole entire year. And we're here for it, and we're going to get you all the way through it with some great stuff. So make sure you keep us up to date. Like, share, subscribe, pass that gravy, spread that butter, tell a friend, tell a family, tell someone about this podcast. And you already know the drill. And until next week, make sure you eat your breakfast. Good luck picking them horses. Have a great weekend. We love y'all. Peace.